Hi, my name is Fred Newman. I'm the owner of the View Camera Store and Fred Newman Photography. And today I'd like to show you the Canham 4x5 DLC. Keith Canham was nice enough to loan me one of his special editions in green, which will make it a little bit easier to see when we show you how to work the camera. Okay, now that we have the camera on the tripod, the first we're going to do is set up the rear standard. There's two little locking, they look like little T's, little bars for the locks right on each side. So we're just going to loosen them and raise the back standard. Now you'll notice on the rear standard, it kind of clicks in position here. It just locks in on the detent, so just lock it down. And on the front, what I usually recommend on most 4x5 cameras or larger, you rack out the bellows a little bit here. Now we want to raise this up, so I want this all the way back so that there's the least chance of this scratching the bellows. So you think of it as a V, and this way this won't touch the bellows at all. Because a lot of cameras I've seen, you have chafing of bellows and you don't want that to happen. So again, as on the rear standard, there's a detent here, so I'm just going to lock the front down. And on the other side, let me just turn this around. And you notice there's two bars here. What I want to do is push the bars so they go into this groove. So I'm just going to push one down. Okay, so now you can see it slides in the little groove here, these two bars. And there's a little line right here that sets up so you're right in the center for your front lens board. And I'm just going to set the camera back to neutral. Now I'd like to show you the movements on the front of the camera. The first thing you want to do is, when you actually set up the camera, is lock down the front so it won't swing. This locking lever here is for front swing. So, and you'll notice there's a little line here, so you could line it up for the shift. So the first thing we'll do is lock this down, and then you have your shift with these two knobs. And you have these two knobs are for rise and fall. I'll set it back to neutral. And then these two knobs set you up for your front tilt. And the rear is on the camera, it's quite symmetrical because you've got the exact same lever right here for the swing. So you've got all the swing that you'd ever need, and you just sort of line it up by eye. You've got the two knobs here for the shift. And you've got these two knobs for rear tilt. Now this camera has base tilt actually in the front and the back. And while I'm at the back, let me just show you one important accessory everyone should have is a ground glass protector. There's a specific ground glass protector for the Canham 4x5 metal. It's designed to fit exactly in the camera. And it's got a little thumb notch or finger notch so you can take it out. And the lock is right here. So you just slide it in right under this little piece here and lock it down. Okay, what I usually recommend when using a shorter focal length, let's say like a 135 or a 120 or a 110 or anything wider than that, there's a little lever in here so you could slide the back forward. So you slide the back, what I would usually recommend doing is get your lens and slide the back forward till you're in focus, on a little bit past focus, and then lock it down. Now this is kind of a left-handed camera because you can have your loop with your right hand and then your left hand is for focusing. And it's very convenient because you just focus. You can do this all one-handed and then lock your focus right down like that. And one other thing, let me just lock it again here. Now one of the advantages of this camera is it's probably one of the best cameras for wide-angle lenses because there's no rail sticking out in the front, and the camera is designed so you loosen this lever in here again. You slide the back towards the front, and you can get as close as about 2 inches. So with this camera, you can go as wide as a 38mm super angulon with a recessed lens board, or a 58mm with a flat lens board. So it's very convenient to slide it forward. And if you need movement, because when you get real tight and you start having a little bit of movement, you don't want to strain the bellows. So this camera does have interchangeable bellows, so you can put a wide angle bellows on. And when you have longer lenses, you rack out the front. I usually try to get it equidistant. And then you rack out the back. And then you focus in the back. Now this camera has about, let's see how much it has, we'll be exact. So if we measure this, we've got about 18.5 inches of bellows. Let's say about 18. And then if you need more bellows, you just, there's the little lever under here, just slide the front standard forward. Slide the back standard back a little bit. And now we have just about 21 inches of bellows. So with this camera, you can go from a 58 with a flat 58 millimeter super angle and with a flat board, all the way out to a 450, like a 450 Fuji standard kind of lens, no problem. Let me set this back to normal here. And go back to here. Okay. The next thing I want to show you is mounting a lens on the camera. You'll notice there's two locking bars on this camera, one on the bottom and one on the top. It's different from a lot of cameras, so when you work with a Canham camera, you have to remember you've got a lock on the bottom and the top. So basically, the lens boards are kind of nice. The lower right-hand corner has KB Canham on it, so you know that it's set up correctly. Fits in here, lock the bottom, lock the top. And it's exactly the same on the back when you're changing from putting your film holder in from the right or the top. You've got a lock on the top and a lock on the bottom. So if you want to do a vertical, make sure the opening's up front here, up top, lock the top and lock the bottom. And also the same thing is if the sunlight is coming in here and you want to insert the film holder from this side, just slide it around this way. And this way the film holders are going here. I'll set it back the way I normally keep it. Okay, let me show you one more thing with the interchangeable bellows. By the way, whenever you put the rear standard down, be very careful because it's very easy to scratch the Fresnel. This camera does come standard with a clear glass with grids and a Fresnel to make it a lot brighter and easier to focus. Now you notice the bellows come out here, and you'll notice there's little angle pieces in here to keep the bellows in place. Every once in a while people do this, and you'll notice, I don't know if you could see how well you could see it, but you could see this corner. You never want to see these corners because what's going to happen is you put the back on and you'll get a light leak from in here. So whenever you change the bellows or they actually only come out, you want to make sure that you cannot see any corners. All you see is the metal frame of the bellows. So I'm going to put the rear standard back. And the same on the front. And the front, the bellows, they do come off with this little bar here and there's little corners that it fits in. Now also on this camera, let me show you. Let me just tilt the camera a little bit here, 1 second. Tilt it forward so you can see all the other things. If you notice here, there's a bubble level on the front standard, a bubble level on the rear standard. There's also a 1/4 inch thread here. This is for the compendium shade that Keith makes. So in case you want to get a lens shade, there's a compendium shade that screws right into the top here. One other thing I want to show you is each camera has a little focusing scale on it, on both sides. So when you're focusing, and I'll discuss this in another video, it's called scale focusing. You could set it to, let's say, if this is like 8 centimeters, let's say for the near, and maybe 7 centimeters for the far, so you can actually use those numbers to work with focusing. It especially helps me because I wear trifocals and have a hard time seeing, but these little scales are very useful for focusing, and they're actually on both sides, so you can use it as a preference. And I usually use this little bar from this piece here as my guide when I'm measuring that. But I'd say that's a whole other video we'll talk about. I'd like to show you one more time taking the camera apart. First thing I'd recommend doing is putting the ground glass protector in. You got the little finger notch, goes right in here. Lock the ground glass protector in, this way it's protected. It'll make a little rattling noise while I'm doing that, but it's in. Next thing is take off the lens. So undo the top lock and the bottom lock. Don't forget to put your lens cap on the back. Push this down, push the locks down. Next you want to loosen up the lock for the swing on the front. Loosen up the lock on the swing for the rear. And again, I like opening up the camera a little bit so we won't chafe the bellows. So basically you raise this up, and we just got to push these bars inward, upward and inward. Make sure these are loose so you can do it. And the same on this side. Okay, so now I'm going to loosen both of these. And you want this like a V all the way up, so the least chance of scratching on your bellows. And then holding this up, push it back so it's back over here in neutral. Okay, now we're going to release this, lock it down, and we're all closed up. Thank you for watching. I hope this helps.